At this time, there is a Chinese course with 500 or more people that are participating. There are international students, and it is harder for them to learn because there must be translation. So the nature of translation is that the mind has to waver and move back and forth, and the vocabulary isn't exactly precise. The words are a little bit different that are used than the Thai words. Thai people have a great opportunity to listen to the Dhamma and understand it. But still, sometimes the message or the meaning veers and strays because the Buddha's era and having to bring the teachings all the way to this area, people have translated the Pali language, translated the scriptures, the Tipitaka, and so they have to make their word choices for the translations. The most complete or the best way to learn from the scriptures would be to learn the Pali language completely and then understand that. But we aren't at that level where we've learned this much theory and language. So we have to learn right on the playing field. It's like if we live on a land and we're in the agricultural area and we don't know what to do or the correct method, but we didn't study in detail, but we get just a little bit of information and knowledge and we give it a go, and then we can manage to grow some things, some trees. What we're looking for is to free the mind from suffering. And if we practice, we can do that. Buddhism isn't about anything else. It's just about what do we do in order to no longer suffer. Because that is the main problem in our lives. Some people say that a broken heart is the biggest issue. And if we have love, then we're happy. People think you have to break your heart, get your heart broken in order for things to be bad. Or if you have a good job, then you don't suffer, but only when you lose your job, then you suffer and have financial issues and feel stress and sadness. Sometimes we have pets, like a dog or a cat, and then they die and we feel bad, we feel sad, or someone in our family, like our children, or have drug addictions, parents suffer. Some of them are not only addicted, but they also become drug dealers and get arrested, go to prison. So the parents are suffering. It's quite amazing how other things in the world around us are having difficulty, and then we suffer, like our dog dies. We're not suffering, but we end up suffering because of things going on around us. When we were children and infants and babies, we depended completely on our parents for survival. We would have just been utterly helpless without them. And we have to work hard to arrive at being a normal, healthy human being. We had to rely on so many people and circumstances in order to get here. So we should take care of our parents as they took care of us. We owe them. In the past, there was a stream enterer that had a son, and he had a lot of bad friends, shady people, and wanted a lot of power. He ended up being Devadatta, one of the enemies of the Buddha that tried to take his power and would teach things incorrectly and create his own community. When they had their first child on the same day that his father died, the father was killed, and the lesson is about having to take care of our parents, that there are the highest evils or the most major infractions in Buddhism is killing the parents, killing an arahant, injuring the Buddha. when there was these tragedies, the king at the time was so stressed and couldn't sleep. He would go around looking for different teachings to help him and went to some strange teachings and communities. Some believed that killing was fine and had no negative effects, didn't think it was a sin to kill. Some schools believed in annihilation, that at the end of this life that there's just nothing, no existence. And so this king then finally was invited to learn from the Buddha after all these other unhelpful teachings. And the great famous doctor at the time, Jivaka, the doctor of the Buddha, invited him to come and meet the Buddha. When this king then came into the monastery, he saw there were so many monks. And there are so many monks in here, my goodness. And all these people, they believe in this Buddha. They don't trust me. Am I safe? And Jivaka, the doctor, said, yes, you're safe. Come on in. This is all from the second sutta after Brahmachara Sutta. So the king listened to the Buddha. We can read the sutta and see what he learned, but he gained a tremendous faith in Buddhism. He wasn't able to enlighten, though, however, because he had killed his father in the past. We have to take care of our parents and not abandon them. These days, so many people abandon their parents, the new youth. These days in Thailand, there's a huge population of elderly people over 60. It's an aging population. We have to be good examples if we're older, as we get older, to be a good example and take good care of our parents, so our children see that and then they take good care of us. There's some issues in families, like the wife doesn't like her stepmother, and doesn't do good things for her. The mother is old and can't eat well, or doesn't eat cleanly, is dirty, and then the wife gets angry at her. We have children and love our children. So let's take good care of our parents, and our kids will know to take good care of us. Some kids even start preparing dishes in the homes in such ways that make it easier for the parents when they're older. Some of us believe our parents are well-to-do, but you never know what happens with currencies. It can fall very quickly. So we have to make a plan for our life and for our families. So how can we survive in this changing world? And the future could be less stable. In the past, you'd get 10% interest on your savings. You have a few million baht, and then you can live for the rest of your life on the 10%, but you don't get any interest these days. So then people end up doing things like cryptocurrency. They look so stressed and pale. These investors, these aren't easy things to invest in. And so life is difficult, a struggle, but let's prepare ourselves, have a proper plan for our lives, and prepare for the future. And even more than that, it's important to prepare our hearts for the future, because life might not go as I expected. So what do I need to do in order for I can arrive at some of these instabilities and difficulties in a way where the heart doesn't suffer? The suffering in our heart occurs from wanting, and all wanting comes from not knowing, not understanding the truth of life. That's called avijja, or ignorance, and it makes us then have wanting. And once there is wanting, there is immediately struggle internally, and thus suffering. This is a process of paticca samuppada, which is dependent origination. But this is just a summary. In order to actually see the entire chain of dependent origination, you'd have to be an arahant. We can read it and memorize it, but that doesn't get us very far. As we get older, we just forget. We have to understand that when we read something or memorize something, that's somebody else's knowledge, it's not our knowledge. It could be from whatever we read, it could be information coming from other great beings, and it can also be from not great beings. It could be from angels, it could be from spirits, but this is all other people's knowledge when we read, not ours. In the Tipitaka, there's actually words from angels, from different hermits and sages, and even from some spirits. They have different exclamations and expressions, but there are also arahants that have some exclamations in the Tipitaka, and it's just so amazing, so interesting to read what they say when they achieve arahantship at the moment of enlightenment, and what they say at that moment. It's really heartening to read. So in order to free our minds from suffering, we have to fix it not at the suffering, but at the cause of the suffering. So we have to understand the Four Noble Truths. suffering, the cause, cessation, and the path. And then once we understand the noble truths,
อย่างหยาบ
then we free
ความ
ourselves.
แก่ความเจ็บความตายเป็นทุกข์ความพลัดพ
So
ราก
what is
จากสิ่ง
suffering?
ที่รักการประสบ
Getting
กับสิ่ง
old,
ที่ไม่รัก
ill,
ปรารถนา
dying
สิ่งใดไม่ได้สิ่ง
are
นั้น
suffering.
อันนี้ก็เป็นทุกข์
Not getting what it is that we want to get, or being apart from the things that we
ไม่
love,
สบายใจ
feeling
ความคับ
having
แค้น
a
ใจก็เป็นทุกข์
uncomfortable body and
อันนี้
uncomfortable
เป็นป
mind
รากฏการณ์ของทุกข์ซึ่งเราเข้าใจง่าย
are suffering. These are easy ways to understand
แก่แล้วทุกข์
what suffering is. Being old is suffering. Kids don't understand that. You have to get older to know that.
คนแก่นะ
Older
เที่ยวตัว
people,
ผิดท่านิดเดียวยอกเลย
all you have to do is
เดินดี
turn or shift in the wrong way and
ขาซ้าย
you get injured.
ไปคนละทางไม่แก่ไม่ทุกข์ไม่รู้หรอกว่าแก่แล้วทุกข์ยังไง
People who are younger don't understand how being older is suffering.
เสียใจนะประสบการณ์ชีวิตเราสูงเราหัวเราะเยาะไอ้พวกหนุ่มสาวได้
But let's not be upset about
ยังไม่รู้จักชีวิตจริง
getting old because we have more wisdom there. It helps to make the older people feel better.
ความแก่ความเจ็บความตายความพลัดพรากจากสิ่งที่รักการประสบกับ
So
สิ่ง
being
ที่ไม่รัก
getting old, getting ill, dying, not getting what we want, being apart from the things we love, feeling an uncomfortable body or an uncomfortable mind. We're familiar with these things, but that's not the only thing that the Buddha taught was suffering.
ทุกข์แล้วเราก็จะไปนั่งคิดแล้วทำไงจะไม่แก่
If all we believed was
ไม่ตายทำไงจะไม่
that
พลัดพราก
getting
จากสิ่ง
old,
ที่รัก
ill, dying, being apart from the things we love, or not getting what we want, if we thought those were the only things that were suffering, then we would just think, okay, so what do I do in order to make things not go that way?
ก็พูดอย่างที่เล่านั่นแหละทุกข์อย่างนั้นแก่เจ็บตายอะไรต่ออะไรนั้น
But this type of suffering, like getting old and dying,
สังคิเตนะปัญจุปาทานะขันธาทุก
the Buddha taught these things and then summarized at the end of that speech,
อุปาทานขันธ์ทั้งห้า
in summary, the 5 aggregates of clinging are suffering.
ก็พอเห็นเงา
So
มือปฏิบัติก็จะรู้ทุกข์แจ่มแจ้ง
we can
พ้นทุกข์ได้
hear that or read that, but we don't really understand it when we do. We only understand that when we practice and see the true phenomena of suffering in our experience. And it's not until then that we can liberate from suffering.
โดยสรุปอุปาทานขันธ์ทั้งห้า
So a lot of us get confused when we hear the Buddha exclaim the 5 aggregates of clinging are suffering. Do we know these 5 aggregates?
พระพุทธเจ้านะสอนเราให้เรามาดูตัวเองนี่แหละ
The Buddha taught us to observe ourselves. This thing that we think is ourself, if we separate it into components, we'll notice that there isn't a self and the self feeling disappears. It's like a car.
มาถอดเป็นชิ้นเล็กชิ้นน้อยนะรถยนต์หายไป
If it is disassembled into its component, the car disappears. All that's left are the tires and the engine and the steering wheel and the seats,
สายไฟ
locks and lights and bulbs. And
หลอดไฟก็ไม่ใช่รถยนต์ใช่ไหมสาย
the
ไฟก็ไม่ใช่
bulb,
รถยนต์
light bulbs are not a
จั
car.
บรถยนต์มาถอดเป็น
Electrical wires are not
ไป
a car, right? The car completely disappears when we separate it out into pieces.
ให้เรามาถอด
So Buddha taught us to take this thing that we believe to be ourselves and separate it into little peoples and see that each one of the components
เรียกว่าวิภัช
has no self in it. This is called Vipacha
เผาไม่หายกาดชอช้าง
method.
วิภัชวิธีคือการเรียนรู้ความ
It is learning the
จำ
truth
แนกด้วยการแยกแยะ
by way of
เพราะฉะนั้นถ้าเราจะรู้ทุกข์แจ่มแจ้ง
dismantling or separating out.
ห้านี่คือตัวทุกข์เนี่ยนะที่จริงเรารู้สึกไอ้ก้อนนี้คือทุกข์
So we feel that
นี่ท่านสอน
this mass is suffering.
ละเอียดก้อนเนี้ยประกอบด้วยอะไร
But the Buddha taught in detail, what does this mass here, what is it comprised of
คือร่างกายเราเนี่ย
or composed of? Five things. One is the body,
เป็นแค่ธาตุ
the form or matter,
ธาตุน้ำธาตุ
that's
ไฟ
one of
ธาตุ
them.
ลม
But
อย่างถ้าเรา
within form or
สามารถ
matter,
แยกกายถึงธาตุเราจะพบว่า
it can
ไม่มี
be
ฝุ่นไม่มี
separated
แสงไม่มี
into
เขามีแต่ธาตุ
four elements from there. There isn't a person, there isn't a me, you, him, her, them.
มัน
There's
เป็น
just
ธาตุที่
elements like the fire,
อยู่ใน
wind,
โลกนี้
earth,
มานาน
and water elements.
แต่เดิมมันก็อยู่ตามดาวเคราะห์น้อยเป็นน้ำโลกมันดูดเข้ามาได้น้ำเข้ามาเราก็อาศัยน้ำมานะรวมกับธาตุดินธาตุไฟ
So
ธาตุ
the
ลม
water
ธาตุไฟ
element
เป็นพลังงาน
and the other
พลั
elements
งงานธาตุลมเป็นความเคลื่อนไหว
come together,
เป็น
right?
ความร้อน
There's the water element, which is the attraction of things coming together, and then there's sort of the electric element of us. That's the fire element. There's the softness and hardness of the earth element,
ก็เลย
and
เกิดในร่างกาย
the movement of the wind element. These things come together to make a body. So when we learn the body truly and see within it, it's very hard to do, but we can separate it and see the truth that it's just these elements. And if the mind doesn't attain jhana, then we're not going to be able to observe the body, gain insight into the body at the level of the elements. If we don't practice jhana, we won't be able to do that. We'll just be busy thinking. It'll be an intellectual exercise, not truly seeing. But those that practice jhana are able to do this successfully. There is one man, I won't tell you who he is. He went to Wat Salawan. He went to Master Put. And I won't mention who this was. He wasn't a monk at the
ห
time.
มามันมาขี้ไว้เต็มถนนเลยไม่รู้หมาทั้งหมู่บ้านนะมันเห็นทางเข้า
And he saw there was so
คือ
much,
ไว้เต็มเลย
it was disgusting because there was so much feces on the ground. You had to be careful when walking because you're going to step in poo anywhere you go. It's dog poo.
แล้วไปเจอกองหนึ่ง
And so
สดๆใหม่
it felt
มีสีเขียวสีเหลือง
it was
สีแดง
disgusting.
อยู่ในกองเดียวกันเนี่ยแหละแมงวันหัวเขียวก็มาเกาะ
There was one
ต้องหัวเขียว
pile of
แมง
poo
วันหัวดำเกาะนี่มัน
that
ซาบ
had different colors in it, and flies were all over it. There was
พวกเรา
green.
วาดภาพนะถ้าแมงวันหัว
So we
เขียว
can
เป็นตอม
take a
ขี้หมา
picture.
เปียกๆอะแล้วบินมาเกาะเราอะเราจะรู้สึกไง
You can think about what if a fly was right on a green turd and then came over and landed on the fly then landed on our face after that. Right? Are we just equanimous to that? I don't think so, right?
เข้าใกล้มันบินขึ้นมาโอ้
We,
ขยันขยงเต็มที่เลย
it's gross and we feel yucky inside.
สมาธิเอาไว้อะ
But the mind of this person who was a good practitioner
กองขี้หมา
at meditation, the mind went into the feces,
มันแยก
and with the power of his meditation, the aggregates of the feces were separated.
ระเหยออกมานะธาตุลมสลายไป
The wind element disappeared that brings the scent,
มันเย็นตัวทันที
and it was
รู้สึกนะจะเย็น
in the experience of this practitioner,
ไม่มี
the heat from it disappeared as well, and it got cool, and then
ธาตุไฟ
the watery
ถูกธาตุลมเป่ามันแห้งไป
the watery element then disappeared, the fire element destroyed it, and all that was left was the earth element,
วัน
dry.
นี้แกก็ดูขี้หมานะขี้หมากับแผ่นดินที่เรายืนอยู่เนี่ย
And the understanding was the solidity, the earth element of the feces, and the earth element of the earth itself, what was being stood on at the time, were just simply the same thing.
ขี้หมา
When
ขี้หมา
this
มันแยกธาตุให้ดู
person
ไม่ได้
then
เจตนาเลยนะ
explained it
ใจ
to
มีปัญหา
Master
ใจ
Put,
มีปัญหาขึ้นมาเกลียด
when
สมาธิ
the heart
อั
made
ตโนมัติมันเข้าไปแยก
a problem,
ขี้หมาให้ดูเลย
the meditation was used
ก็นั่นแหละภาว
to
นา
be able to resolve the problem by seeing the truth of the situation. The problem there was just feeling gross.
จิตไม่มีกำลังของสมาธิ
So wisdom
ปัญญาก็ไม่เกิด
was able to decipher what was really there.
ขี้หมากับโลกข้างนอกมันก็อันเดียวกันนะเป็นธาตุดินน้ำ
a turd on the ground and the entire world are of the same substance. So if we're going to learn this body in the sense of the elements, it is an extremely hard practice. It's a vipassana that is suitable for those that are skilled in jhana practice. For most of us, we need to observe other things, not that. Instead, we're more vipassana mannered rather than samatha mannered, meaning those of us who aren't able to practice deep meditation, we have to practice in a different way and observe the mind. And then the samatha comes later. Or the deep meditation comes later. Right? So we use this method of separating out the pieces of something to see the truth. So if we're not able to separate into the elements, and that's not a problem. We can separate things in much more simple ways, like noticing the body's breathing out or it's breathing in. We can notice that all day. Or noticing the body standing, sitting, lying down, walking, separated into the different positions. Or noticing the moving and shifting of the body. The body's either moving and shifting or it's not. It's still moving or it's still. That's happening all day long. If we're just noticing sitting, standing, walking, lying down, each of those positions stay for a long time. But if we're noticing just the little moving and shifting of the body, and then it's still, and then it's shifting, we don't have to pretend to shift or do it on purpose. There's all kinds of different movements that happen regularly. The body just moves, right? There's a fly and we shoo it away. There's this and there's that movement. If we practice like that, there's some stories of people brushing their teeth, and the mind has samadhi arising, and then seeing that the arm is not us, just seeing that a portion of the body is just a mass, no person in it. But if we keep practicing, we'll see that this entire body is not a self at all. We're breathing out, breathing in, and aware of it. The mind gains samadhi, and then the wisdom can arise that sees that the body isn't us, the body that's breathing out isn't us, the body breathing in isn't us. If we're knowing the four positions of standing, lying down, sitting, walking, then we see the body sitting isn't us, the body walking, sitting, lying down is not us. It's just a material thing that's moving, elements coming in and out, like breathing in and out, and excrement and urine coming out, food coming in. No self, just things moving and changing. When the mind has samadhi, we can see that this thing that is moving and shifting this way and that way is just like a robot, not a person. So we keep studying, having mindfulness that recognizes the movements of the body. The mind gets really strong at doing this. After we noticing movements and shifts, the mind gets strong, and the mind separates from the body. And it separates automatically from seeing the body moving. And it occurs without trying to make it occur. The body's moving and shifting. And what happens is see the mind move down to the body, and then the mind moves down towards a part of the body, and then that is seen, and then the mind becomes the stable observer, and the mind that moves out disappears. So by observing physical
เช่นทำ
movement,
วิปัสสนา
we
ไม่ได้
can move to
แต่
vipassana
เรา
practice
อย่าง
and
เราบริ
insight
กรรม
from there.
พุทโธพุทโธนะโม
But
พัท
if
ธะ
we're
อย่างเงี้ย
just using a mental
กับคำบริกรรม
exercise like Budo or chanting, and the mind
อัน
is
เนี้ยจะไม่ขึ้นวิปัสสนา
fixated on the mantra, then we can't achieve insight or vipassana. But if we do a chant in the mind or a mantra in the mind, and we do it in order to see the mind move, we see that when we're able to see the phenomena of the mind moving, that's a true phenomena, and that's
มี
something
ผม
that
เคยได้ยินมานานแล้วพวกที่เขาเรียน
vipassana
ปฏิ
can
บั
be
ติธรรม
practiced from seeing.
เขาบอกวัดป่าครูบาอาจารย์วัดป่าภาวนาไม่มีทางสำเร็จหรอกภาวนาพุทโธคือถ้าท่านท่องพุทโธนกแก้วนกขุนทองไม่สำเร็จหรอกก็จริงอย่างเขาว่าเพราะพุทโธ
Some
เป็น
people criticize the forest tradition of practicing with Budo,
แต่เวลาท่านพุท
and
โธ
they say, oh, there's no way there'll be any wisdom from doing that.
ไม่เข้าใจ
Well, they're right
ท่านพุท
if
โธแล้วก็
the
รู้ทันจิตตัว
forest
เอง
tradition was just holding their attention at Budo the whole time, but that's not what they're doing.
สิ่งที่เรียกว่าพุทโธ
The masters
ก็คือ
say
ผู้รู้ผู้ตื่นผู้เบิก
Budo,
บานจิตที่ตั้งมั่นหรือจิตที่ประพัดสอน
and we know the mind. The word Budo
ท่าน
means
ท่องพุทโธพุทโธพุทโธ
the knower.
ถ้าจิตท่านหนีไปจากพุทโธท่านรู้ทัน
So the master will Budo, 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 and then the mind escapes from the Budo, and then they know that it has left. Right? So that's knowing true phenomena,
เฮ้ยสายพุทโธ
and as such, then liberation is certainly possible from seeing truth. But people that just criticize, they haven't really understood or learned how is it that they Budo? What is their approach with regards to practicing Budo?
ก็ทำได้นะไม่ใช่ทำไม่ได้
So
ถ้า
many
ถูกหลักแล้ว
different
ถูกหลักของ
techniques and
ใช้
practices
ได้หมดเลย
can lead to enlightenment, and insight and enlightenment is just a matter of the approach with regards to what towards the meditation or meditation object of
ไม่
choice.
ได้มีความรู้จริงทั้งปริยัติทั้งปฏิบัติเนี่ยออกมา
So a lot of people don't really understand the truth or understand the practice, and they just read.
ไม่จะสอนอะไรหรือบางคน
They just read
แอบอ้างว่า
and
เป็น
then
ผู้ช่วย
teach
สอน
it,
ของหลวงพ่อ
and
แล้ว
some
ไป
people
สอนคนแล้วไปหลอกหาผลประโยชน์หาอะไรมีนะไม่ใช่ไม่มีมันอย่างงมงายนะ
some people pretend
เป็นผู้
they're
ช่วยสอนเนี่ย
assistant
ไป
teachers
ดู
of
อะไร
Luangpa,
อะ
and
.com
you have to take a look on Dhamma.com to see who
ก็
Luangpa's assistant teachers
คาร
are.
วะสธรรมดูตรงนั้นนะนะ
Or
ชื่อเพจคารวะสธรรมนะ
the name of the page is
บางคนเข้ามาสอน
Karawasatam,
สอนแล้วหา
and those are the
บางคนมาสอนแล้วก็ออก
appointed assistant
ก็
teachers.
ไล่ออกไปไม่ให้มาสอนนะคนที่หลวงพ่อมอบหมายให้สอนเนี่ยต้องแน่ใจแล้ว ความประพฤติต้องดี ความรู้ต้องดีนะเหมือน
My assistant teachers have to have good knowledge
บอกว่าเป็นลูกศิษย์หลวงพ่อแล้วสอน
and good behavior.
ไล่เตะไปเลย
I've
หลอกตื้อ
I've ejected from the temple some people that have taught when I haven't
หลวงพ่อ
told them to.
บ้านโทรไลน์เห็นหน้าหลวงพ่อเสียงก็เสียงหลวงพ่อนะแล้วก็ตอนนี้หลวงพ่อ
Some
ต
people
กรถอยู่ที่นี่ ด่า
are at home and hear voices at
ป
home
รับเล็กน้อย
and think they know what happened to me, to Luangpa,
แต่
but
ไม่บวชแล้ว
they're
แต่ไหนแต่ไร
wrong about
ไม่
it.
เคยขออะไรใครเลยนะเคยขออย่างเดียวขอแต่งงาน
Luangpa says, I have
นอกนั้นไม่เคยขออะไร
never asked for anything from anybody. So if there's anything where Luangpa is asking for anything, that's a scam.
จะเอาหลวงพ่อ
If you hear anything like that,
เยอะนะ
a lot of
เป็นตัว
people
ขายเป็นตัวล่อ
use my
หาผลประโยชน์
videos or media or materials in order to
ใหญ่โต
for their business.
แนวทางไม่เหมือนกัน
That's not what what I'm here to do.
มีแต่ให้นะ
I haven't asked for anything. I haven't asked from anyone. All I do is provide. He says,
เนี่ย
when I was
กินข้าว5 นาทีแล้วนัดคนมาเรียนกรรมฐาน
an office worker at TOT Telephone Company,
หลวงพ่อต้องเลี้ยงข้าวด้วยนะเลี้ยงข้าวเสร็จแล้วพาไปเลี้ยงกาแฟต่อก็สอนไปเรื่อยๆเนี่ยทุกวันนัดไว้5 คนทำไมไม่นัด10 คนสอนไม่ทันอ่ะนัดวันละ5 คนนะก็ใช้เงินเยอะนะในการสอนไม่ได้จ้างมานะมันขอมาแต่เรา มันหิวข้าวสงสารนะ
I would teach at that time and tutor people in Dhamma at that time. And not only did I not take any money for it, but after work, we would meet and I would pay for dinner.
โน้นชอบฉันนี้ก็โกหกนะเมื่อก่อนอยู่เมืองการที่เมืองการนะ
When I stayed in Kanchanaburi as a monk, sometimes there wasn't enough food.
ก็ยังไม่ได้รู้จักอะไรเท่าไหร่
Not many people knew who I was, and there wasn't that much food. So the nun would make food every day
มีเวลาก็ออกไปซื้ออาหารมาตุนไว้
and would buy some food
แล้วแถวเมืองการนะมันมี
to prepare.
อยู่อย่างเดียวคือข้าวขาหมูขาหมูมีคนไปเห็นโอ้หลวงพ่อชอบฉันข้าวขาหมูเรานะขาหมู
I was out and I was offered some pork leg, and so I was eating pork leg, and then somebody saw that I was eating pork leg and decided I love pork leg, and then all of a sudden I'd get pork leg donated all the time. So people don't know what, I've never asked for anything. I've never said that I like this or I like that or I want this or I want that. Some people will say, will say that Luangpa likes this or likes that food, and then they tell, some of the monks even talk about it, and then they say, oh, if Luangpa likes that food, then I should have that food too. And then the monks will eat something they think that Luangpa likes, but Luangpa says, I've never declared such things.
ส่วนใหญ่ก็มีกินนะเพียงแต่ว่าปลายเดือนกินมาม่าเท่านั้นแหละ
Anyway, there was just enough to eat. Just sometimes at the end of the month, all there was left was instant noodles.
ร่างกายมีสติทำกรรมฐานอันหนึ่งก่อนแล้วคอยรู้ทันจิตตัวเองแล้วจิตจะตั้งมั่นเมื่อจิตมันตั้งมั่นได้ So
let's learn about our own body and mind and have the mindfulness that sees the body and mind. And we'll see that if sati or mindfulness recognizes the body, it'll see that it isn't us. And the feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, if that is seen by mindfulness, it'll be seen eventually that these things aren't us. And we'll see that the memory and perception that it isn't us either. It's about memory, and then there's also interpretation, and both these things, sometimes they are interpreting correctly and sometimes incorrectly. But as unenlightened beings, there will be incorrect interpretation all the time, because the unenlightened person believes that things that are suffering are happy things, things that are beautiful are not beautiful things, believes they're beautiful. Things that are not a self believes they're a self, things that are not suffering, things that are impermanent and believes they're permanent. So the perception is incorrect for unenlightened people. Regarding mental formations, the fourth aggregate, the memory and perception was the third aggregate. Regarding the fourth one, the mind is fabricating states, good states, bad states, wholesome, unwholesome, all the time. None of these things are a self. If the mind is a stable observer, it'll see that all these things are not a self. Anger isn't us. Greed isn't us. And we see all these things are not a self. And then finally, we'll be able to see that the mind itself, the fifth aggregate, the consciousness aggregate, is not a self either. You can see that the consciousness, when it's seeing, is at the eye, and it's seeing an object. Or the consciousness hearing is at the ear. It's the ear consciousness. Hearing. And so the consciousness is something that moves. It's at the eye and then it's at the ear. There are actually 121 different types of consciousnesses or minds that arise and fall. It's too many to teach, but you can study all that, but those that study all that, they don't actually see it. They just are memorizing it, especially the enlightenment minds or the jhana minds that can occur. Those that just study theory, they don't see those in their own experience. At most, they can see just the minds that are existing in the sense desire, sense pleasure realms. There are too many to teach all these details. The Buddha didn't teach regular people these things. He taught that there's the 5 aggregates. He taught, and then simply with regards to the 5th aggregate, the consciousness, that there is the mind that moves to the body, that moves to the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and goes to think. But the mind actually is at one place and then falls away and then arises as the stable observer. If the mind has samadhi, if it doesn't, then the mind is out at these things all the time. But if the mind is the stable observer, then the stable observer disappears, and then the mind that's going to look at an object arises, and then that falls away, and then the mind that goes to the ear arises and hears at the ear, and then that disappears, and the mind goes to into thought and arises in the thoughts and then disappears there. So then if we're able to have the stable observer, we're able to see that the mind is the stable observer, and then it is not. It runs around to the different senses, and there's no way to control this, whether the mind is in thought or listening or at the eyes, for example, isn't something that is chosen. It is things that happen on its own. So when the mind moves to the thought, then no so. The mind moves to the meditation object, then no so. And the mind that moves will disappear, and then the mind that is the stable observer will appear in its place. And then we'll be able to see that there isn't an us, there isn't an ours. And the one who is able to see that is the stream enterer. So let's have the goal of being the stream enterer first. If we want to get higher than that, we can talk about that later. We have to understand that when we see that there is no self, that doesn't mean we have seen suffering. When we see suffering, we'll see the suffering of the body first. the body is not a self, and that's completely understood at the level of the stream enterer already. But then as wisdom gets more refined, then it'll be seen that the body is nothing but suffering. There's just extreme suffering and minor suffering, but there's nothing other than suffering in the body that, or of the body, that arises, sustains, or passes away. The body is just utterly and completely suffering. That has to be seen utterly and clearly in order for the mind to release the body. And then at the final stage of practice, it is seen that the mind itself is also only suffering. Right? All there is extreme suffering and minor suffering, but it's only suffering. And then when that is seen utterly and clearly, then suffering is completely understood and the mind is released as well. Can we handle that? That everything is suffering and nothing other than suffering happens, sustains, or passes? If we're able to see that, that's knowing suffering. Once we know suffering, then the cause of suffering is eliminated, because when suffering is seen, the truth of suffering is seen, then ignorance is eliminated. And then the truth is seen, and nibbana is experienced. Nibbana is the state of no more wanting, no more craving, no more desire. And that is the complete completion of the path, the noble path. So the Eightfold Path has moral, mental, and wisdom training, and we have to develop these things a little at a time, walking along the path until everything comes together and everything is complete. And the 7 parts of the Eightfold Path will all come together at the mind, at the samadhi, at the 8th, which is samadhi. And the power of all that and the completion of all that will achieve the liberation. Are there still aggregates at that point? There are aggregates, but the mind is not grasping at or clinging to aggregates. There is nibbana experienced. Are there aggregates? Does the Arahant have aggregates? Yes, there are aggregates. Especially that's why the Buddha taught that there are 2 different nibbanas. There's the nibbana while still alive and the one after the final passing. So the mind is transcendent or above the world, is not in the aggregates, but the mind is free and liberated and boundless, not bound to anything. The mind doesn't move in or sink into anything. So do the eyes see? Yes. Is there the consciousness at the eye? Yes. So there is that aggregate, but the Arahant doesn't sink into it, isn't involved in it. It's there, but no involvement. So let's study this, because a Buddha doesn't arise in the universe very often, and the teachings are available. But these teachings are going against the stream. Going against the stream of what? The stream of defilements. So while there is still the Buddha's teachings, let's hurry up and practice and keep the precepts and practice formally every day. Have a main object for the mind, and then observe the behavior of the mind. And then we'll be able to develop wisdom and eventually nibbana or
เก็บไว้แค่
liberation
20 นา
will
ที
occur.
เพราะว่า
I thought I would
นะ
teach
ตอนท้ายท่านก็เทศแค่
just
20
a
นาที
short talk today, but it ended up long. Some of the masters, like Luangpu Tet, he only talked for 20 minutes.
อา
Number
ยุ
one,
มากแล้วตั้งใจป
I'm
ฏิบั
old
ติธรร
now.
มเป้าหมายคือ
I
ความพ้นทุกข์
am diligent in practicing, trying to liberate, but the mind is not strong. The body
อ่อน
is
ใจอ่อนล้า
weak
ยังยอมรับไม่ได้
and I feel
ฟังหลวงปู่ทุกครั้งก็มีกำลังใจภาว
discouraged.
นา
And when I listen to you, I feel strong and get diligent. I try to observe phenomena. I see that the body can't be controlled. I notice that
จะตั้งใจทำไป
there are
เรื่อย
ups and downs all the
ๆ
time.
ชี้แนะ
I'll keep trying. Can I have advice?
ทำได้ถูก
You practice well, you're practicing
อย่า
correctly.
หวัง
Keep
ผล
going.
นะถ้าเราอยากได้ผลเนี่ยเรามีตัณหา
Don't look for results, because if we're looking
ตัณ
for
หามันไม่
results,
ได้ทำให้เราบรรลุ
then
มรรคผล
there
หรอก
is
เราเรียนรู้
craving
กายเรียนรู้ใจ
and desire in the mind, and there will be no liberation. So just keep knowing the body and knowing the mind, and then eventually we'll see that there's nothing other than
ไม่
uncertainty,
ยึดถือมันก็ไม่ทุกข์เลย
and we
เท่านั้น
won't
แหละนะ
attach anymore.
ทำนั้นได้
And when we don't attach, there'll be
แล้ว
no
ก็ใช้
suffering.
กาย
Keep going, you
ทำ
do
ไว้
well.
มันจะดูได้ง่ายเพราะว่ากายเนี่ยเดี๋ยวมันก็เจ็บเดี๋ยวมันก็
Use
ป่วย
the body
เราดูเรื่อยๆ
as your home base for the mind,
แต่
because
ว่า
you'll
พอ
see
ทุกข์แล้วใจ
that
เราไม่ช
there's
อบอะไม่
pain,
ใจ
there's illness, but when there's not liking, then know that
ร่าง
that's
กายด้วย
there,
จิตใจที่เป็นกลางเห็น
and
ทุกข์
then
ไป
see
เรื่
the
อยๆ
body,
บาง
see
ท่าน
the
ทุกข์กาย
mind
จนจบ
as
นะ
they are
มีนะไม่ใช่ไม่มี
impartially.
เบอร์สอง
There's still a possibility of freeing your mind from suffering. Let's not think that there isn't. Number two,
พร้อมภาวนาพุทโธร่วมกับเดินจงกรมพอลมหายใจเริ่มนิ่งจะพิจารณากายใจว่าไม่เที่ยงเป็นทุกข์ไม่สามารถสั่งได้ชีวิตประจำวันดูความรู้สึกตนเอง
I see that
ทุกข์รู้
the body or mind are things that can't be controlled. I try to observe the feelings and emotions and
ยังหลงอยู่
see them when they arise. I notice that my attention sinks into these things.
ที่ปฏิบัติอยู่ถูก
I believe in my own thoughts.
เห็นนะทำสมถะ
Your mind is restless. It's a busy one. So practice some samatha. Maybe if you're not good at it, then just keep chanting. Chant over and over again, and you actually can achieve samadhi from that.
ใจมันยังฟุ้งอยู่นะ
Your mind's
ไปเพิ่มสมถะ
too
เบอร์สาม
busy. So you have to practice more samatha. Number three, you're good.
รักษาศีลได้ดีขึ้นในรูปแบบใช้การเดินจงกรมกับนั่งสมาธิดูร่างกายหายใจประมาณ 30-60 นาทีในชีวิตประจำวันจะเห็นร่างกายหายใจเองได้บ้าง
I follow the precepts much better. I notice the body breathing sometimes. I find that I tend to overfocus, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little, but it's never the same.
ไม่ได้
I try to fix things, but it's never successful.
กับตัวเองใหม่
Sometimes the mind relaxes out of things. Am I practicing with the right meditation object?
แล้วตรงที่เห็น
Yes, you've developed well. And the fact that you can't fix things, that's correct. In Vipassana, there's no such thing as fixing or maintaining. It's just knowing things as they are.
ดีนะเบอร์สาม
You practice well, number three. Number four,
เบอร์สี่เดินจงกรมวันละ 3-5 ชั่วโมงมีวิหารธรรม
I walk 3 to 5 hours a day. I'm with the body and know the mind that strays from it.
เรื่องราวที่คิด
I find that I get caught in thoughts for long periods of time,
เนืองๆขอหลวงปู่เมตตาชี้แนะ
and I just
ไปทำอีกไปทำถูกแล้ว
just keep practicing. You're practicing correctly. The mind is better.
ขึ้น
You look lighter and clearer.
นี่ว่างเปล่า
And can you see that this world
เรา
is
เห็นไปที่ว่า
empty of substance?
ทุกอย่างดู
The mind that's able to see that sees that nothing really has
อย่าหวังผล
is everything is sort of nonsensical. So just don't try to achieve results and just keep practicing.
ตระกูล
Number five,
ใช้อุบาย
I
เพ่งนิมิตพุทธเป็นวิหารธรรม
practice to be a bodhisattva.
เมื่อจิตทรงอยู่ในนิมิตนี้
I notice when my mind gets involved
แต่สงสัยว่าใน
in certain visions or images, the mind has a lot of samadhi, but I'm not sure if I'm just
ขึ้นมานี้
fabricating,
ญาอย่างไรเพื่อให้เห็นไตรลักษณ์
and I believe I have samadhi, so
ขึ้นมาเองนี้ครับ
ก็ต้องรู้ตั้งแต่
this
ตรง
knower
สั้นๆนะ
arises.
แล้วก็ดูจิต
And how do I develop wisdom? You have to be able to see that the knower is not, you can't fabricate this knower. It's something that arises out of seeing the mind go to to its different channels.
ตัวไหนยังอ่อนอยู่ก็สร้างไปเรื่อยๆมี
So
โอกาส
as
สร้างตัวไหนก็สร้าง
a bodhisattva, you have to look at the barami, the perfections, and then see which ones are weak, and then
บารมี
keep
ที่เราต้องสร้าง
developing all those barami.
ดูเอาเห็นไหมหลวงพ่อไม่
So take a look at them and see which ones you're weak in.
พยายาม
So
เป็นโพธิสัตว์ก็
whoever wants to be a bodhisattva, that's fine.
หลวงพ่อไม่เอา
I don't look down on that. I just
เนี่ยต้องมานั่งสอนเนี่ยนะเพราะไอ้บาปเก่าอันนี้แหละ เบอร์หก
we've all made mistakes in the past and work to improve qualities.
นั่งสมาธิ
I have to
เดินจงกรม
sit here
และฝึก
and
ใจตัวเอง
and teach
มีแบบฝึกหัดมาให้ดู
still
ในชีวิต
because
ประจำวัน
not just only because of good things that I've done.
บ้างบางทีที่เห็นก็ไม่ได้ดับลงในทันทีหากเป็นเรื่องที่รบกวนจิตใจมาก เห็นอารมณ์โกรธแต่อารมณ์หลงยังตามไม่ทัน
It's hard to notice the mind getting lost in and getting to notice delusion. I can notice anger. That's an easier thing to see. What you're practicing is good and correct. Have mindfulness regularly,
พัฒนาเองแหละ
and the development will occur by itself. Number 7.
เบอร์ 7 ทำในรูปแบบทุกวันเห็นร่าง
I practice formally every day, seeing the body breathing and the mind is the knower.
เพ่งจิตจะไปแช่ที่ลมหายใจ
My mind
อยากได้
gets absorbed in the breath,
ในชีวิต
and I want to
รักษาศีลห้า
receive results.
คอยย้อนสังเกต
I try to keep the precepts well
ใจร้อนกับ
and
ใจดีบ้าง
observe my
บางครั้งสลับกัน
feelings. Sometimes the mind is good, sometimes it's
คาดหวัง
angry
เข้าใจชีวิต
and irritated.
แต่อดใจ
I understand that
ขอหลวงปู่
life is temporary, but I can't really accept it.
ก็พัฒนาเองแหละ
Just keep practicing. Practice a lot, and the development will continue. Your practice is good.
เบอร์แปด
Number 8.
เบอร์ 8 ปิดวาจามา2 ปีกว่า ตามหลวงพ่อสั่งสอน เมื่อตาเห็นแล้วเห็นความคิดเกิดขึ้น รู้ว่ามันเป็นเอง
I practice according to your teachings. I see things arise out of control.
จำได้หรือว่าเป็นปัญญาครับ
Is this just memory, or is this actual understanding?
ดี
Is it wisdom? Yes, it is wisdom. What you're practicing is good.
ปัญญาเป็นความเข้าใจของจิต
Wisdom is an understanding of the mind.
เข้าใจ
So if you see things
ไปทำ
over and over again, you see them often, then the wisdom keeps developing. That's all for today.